Use the right camera. Duh. Why does it always go there? This thing just hates me. Stop it, you. Can you just use a normal camera like a normal person?
Oh, no, keep that off, because basically this show is now hosted by me.
Once I don't know what to do with this thing. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome, Ken. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I've been up since 12:45, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But yeah, good day. It's a Friday. Already had a breakfast with my wife, so can't complain.
Well, that's good.
So let's get into it. We have a lot to cover as per usual. So welcome back, everyone, to Creative Briefs. It's our weekly recap of the top news and analysis from the creator economy. Every week, we will bring you a roundup of the news that we found the most interesting and compelling with our own little voiceovers and annotations to add a little color. And we'll also usually do a deep dive into, a topic that we think is of interest, or some way to tie together all of the news that we're seeing into something, a little bit more coherent. We do go live on Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can find out more over at created.show. It's the official show page for Creative Economy. We also do stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, and LinkedIn, depending on what day it is and how we're feeling. So if you like audio or video, you have your options, you have your choices by all means. Let me bring up the deck, as I always seem to forget to do that. By the way, we do keep post longer form content, our show notes and other things like that over at createdeconomy.com. So feel free to head over there. You can also sign up for our mailing list. Actually, we have like a couple mailing lists, but either way, sign up somewhere and you will get notified about all the fun new things that we have coming up. Now, let's see. This is episode 11. All right. We've done this show 11 times. So we're like pushing into the 30s, I think, right now. Welcome back. By the way, do give us a follow. We are Created Economy everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Flipboard, and of course on Twitch. This week we are, of course, also as per usual, doing our AMA drop. So AMA is the official coin of the Created Economy show. It will unlock new opportunities and behaviors for you in this show over time. So feel free to head over to bit.ly/AMA-drop-6 to grab some free money. We are literally giving you money. We are paying you to listen to Ken and I talk about things. But it's also a great way to dip your toe into crypto if you haven't tried it yet. And we welcome giving you some more of it this week. All right. We also do have a Slack, by the way, last little bit of news. And so it is a great place to meet other creators and a lot of other builders who are putting together tools for the creator economy. So head over to our Slack. It's bit.ly/created-slack. So that is your chance to also get there. If you've got the video feed on, you can scan the QR code. Don't do that yet. All right. Now, Ken, what's up? We got a ton of news. Should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, I think so. And a big shout out to James for tuning in again today. Wonderful to see you. Sorry, let's load this up. It's my first day on the job as an intern, so here we go. All right. So, Greg, I think we may not have as much news to cover this week as last week and the previous weeks, although the significance of some of the events that happened this week are like far outweigh the quantity, of the news. So I think we'll definitely have a lot to talk about here. All right. So our first conversation centers on Instagram. Now, Instagram is here's what I see with Instagram is it's almost like the equivalent of Google and messaging apps. There's so many different ways that they're trying to do video, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have Instagram Reels, which is their TikTok competitor. They have Instagram IGTV, which is more longer form, which you would think like almost like a Quibi or maybe longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you also can create Instagram, just regular videos, which are kind of like that in between. So now what Instagram's doing is like, all right, we're getting rid of IGTV and we're just going to consolidate everything that we have on Instagram that's video related with the exception of Reels. And we're just going to compartmentalize that into a specific area. And now we're going to call it Instagram video, which adds doesn't clarify a lot. It just still confounds you because you're still like, wait, Instagram video, like what is it? Basically, long story short, the brand IGTV is going away. But everything that you're going to find, any video that you want, with the exception of your Reels, will be found in this Instagram video section tab.
It's the same app though, right? Or is it?
That's what everyone's understanding.
Confused. Was it 2 apps now? I thought they launched a new app called.
That is not exactly clear. They're saying it's right here. They're saying according to TechCrunch, Instagram is taking another step towards its larger goal of making video a more central part of the Instagram experience, with news that it will now combine IGTV's long form video and Instagram feed videos into a new format called simply Instagram Video. And these videos, both longer and shorter, will be found in user profiles in a new video tab. So it doesn't seem that there is going to be a standalone app. I can kind of see that why it might make sense to have a separate
they added
video.
it as a tab on individual users' profiles.
Yeah, but your Reels will be separate.
Look, here's the thing. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, these video formats exist for a reason. They got to figure out some place to put them. I think we talked about this previously on the show. Is just that Adam Mosseri, is that how you say his name?
Mosseri, yeah, I think so.
It's sort of like alluded to this kind of framing that Instagram was actually a video platform, not a photo platform, and that pissed off a whole bunch of people. I don't know if I don't know if that's true yet. But certainly we are entering a more immersive age when it comes to video, relatively speaking. Some of that is technological, just like our bandwidth and having the technology and infrastructure to sort of enable it and facilitate it. Some of it is, cultural, like where people are changing and they prefer these short clips, and they also are working from home, and so they have more time potentially to like listen in the background or on the side and stuff like that. Who knows, man? I don't know. Like IGTV, like I never really loved that name to begin with, but
I thought that was catchy at first. If it was executed differently, I would imagine. And then, like, obviously, it's you're armchair quarterbacking here at this point, right? Because you're not working for Instagram, you're not working for Facebook, so you don't really, there's a lot of stuff that you don't know. But I think like with the potential of IGTV, there's a lot. If there's potential for, if Instagram wanted that to become the new, a competitor to YouTube, but for the creator space, I could see that happening, right? For more longer form type of stuff. Would you necessarily have seen, full on documentaries like, with Kevin Hart, or would you have seen like, the Apple TV type of quality films being debuted on IGTV? Probably not. I don't think people would necessarily be prone to staying on Instagram for that. But there's an interesting statistic here that I want to share, is that you're right, Greg. There was now a IGTV standalone app.
Oh,
right?
that was what I was confused.
Yeah.
So they've got rid of that to concentrate all their activity back in.
According to, like, they're saying 7 million of the 1 billion plus Instagram users had downloaded this app. According to Sensor Tower. That's very small.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, so I think what we're seeing is with this introduction of this proliferation of video on these social apps, especially with Instagram, right? They're trying to become like, oh, we're obviously our DNA has been photos, but now we're still want to do videos because we want to combat TikTok. They're kind of, I guess there's a sprawl of different tools and features and brands and products, and now you're winding up being like what Google has with messaging services, right? Because then you have Google Message, you have Duo, you have Allo, you have Google Meet, Google Hangouts, all these different services to chat, but you don't know what the hell the difference is between them. Like, why would I use one versus the other? And so this is maybe a way for Instagram to kind of really consolidate everything and simplify it, so what the hell, all you need to do is create videos. This is where you're going to find it all. This is where you're going to find your reels. This is where where you're going to upload photos or do your stories. I think that's the problem with, as Instagram and Facebook are maturing, is going to wind up being super complex, right? And so they're trying to whittle it down.
Well, I mean, discoveries, look, everyone's problem, right?
Yeah.
So, interesting enough. All right, what else we got up this week?
So,
everyone remembers this.
You may have known that, what was it, on Tuesday? There was some peace and quiet on the internet, and, well, for the most part, and it was all because Facebook had this massive outage, their biggest outage ever, and for more than 6 hours, the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger all went down due to a server configuration error. And this is a worldwide thing. And obviously, there's a lot of broader implications to Facebook itself going down worldwide when I think it was like 3 billion people use it on a monthly basis for business or for livelihood or for advertising, whatever. Like that's we can talk about that for days on end. But I think for this show, let's talk about the implications to creators, right? I mean, you look at,
I think the rumors of creators' deaths have been what's that quote?
Greatly exaggerated.
Exaggerated, right? So a couple of things here, right? I think number one, you should have been de-risking yourself to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
A platform going down, however, is not in the same category as a platform robbing you, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, I know our friend Matt Zavell was also saying, like, all of the naysayers were coming out of the cracks to bring their pitchforks around the platforms again and this was just, an unfortunate circumstance where like a platform was down, right? Like same thing, like with email was down or something else. Like you wouldn't stop using email because email was down, right? Like
no.
you shouldn't stop using Facebook or Instagram. Most likely, I think I certainly can relate. Like, there are likely many campaigns that were trying to be executed that day, and brands were like losing out on, maybe some exposure, some opportunities, but kind of that was horizontal, right? Like, the brand was down also. So it's not just the creator stuff that wasn't going out. It was also the brand stuff that wasn't going out. So there are ways to adjust for that. I don't think, look, as we've said many times, creators would be foolish to not be investing in building and owning their own database of their own users and building and owning their own destinations and properties. That doesn't mean like go launch your own website or spin up a server on your own, right? And by the way, as someone who does do that like for work and as a business, there's all kinds of problems that can happen every day, anytime, right? Yeah. And so you are not protected from outages because you run on your own stuff, right? Like that's just a fallacy, and that's foolish for you to think that there's any other preventative measure you can do to get around that. Should you be diversifying? Yes. Get off your butt. Go do some of those things to like actually diversify. Yes, I agree, Christmas. Like, this is absolutely why you should have your email list. But here's the thing I will say. What would you have done with that email list just because Facebook was down, right? Like, your business didn't die. It didn't disappear, right? Like, everyone was off. Like, maybe it was a good mental health day for everybody to sort of have some time to go like do something else. Now, look, if this was down for like a week, yeah, absolutely. I would be like, oh my God, don't you really regret not having your email list? It being down for a few hours, like I'm just not going to, my skin doesn't rise that much over this though, right? Like, other than to point out that as much as we may want to hate on Facebook and Instagram, like when they're not there, we miss them.
Well, I think you're right, Greg. I think there's certainly multiple sides to this. I think there are those who bank their livelihood on these type of things, and maybe they're like, oh, that payday was something that they wanted to, like, oh, now I can't get it because Facebook's down. On the other hand, I totally agree with you. I think it's foolish to think that like, oh my God, like YouTube's down. Like, how is YouTube never down? Like, I mean, that's like saying like, oh, I hope my power in my home is never going to go out because I need it in order to work. Right. Or my internet's like, oh, Comcast is never going to, I can't, Comcast better promise me that they're never going to go down. There's no way to actually guarantee that, right? The fact that your internet goes down at your house, I mean, that's a common way of life. I mean, it's like, oh no, my internet's down. What the hell am I going to do? I can't, it's less me. I can't put out this campaign, or I can't put out this, send this email out to anybody. It's like, oh no, like who am I, like Comcast or Time Warner or whoever, like reimburse me for all this lost revenue. Like, I don't think certainly that it's like it's buyer beware. It's the risk you take, and you have to come to grips with that. So I believe, I would imagine most people are taking that level-headed approach and like, okay, we get it. But I think on one, to kind of play a little bit of a devil's advocate, I think there's a reality is that people are also saying like the potential, the enormous power and reach that Facebook has. I mean, it's certainly a wake up call to kind of say like, hey, this is what's happening with Facebook, and the fact that it's down, like it's impacting how many people are reliant on it for not only just to create, but for small businesses, those that are using WhatsApp and everything else to communicate with each other. So, I mean, it's certainly a nice little wake up call for that.
Yeah, this is a good transition though, because speaking of fuck ups that are totally preventable, let's go to that Twitch news.
Let me see. Twitch news. I don't remember hearing about that. I didn't
hear about that. I just heard about the outcomes.
Look, okay. So, the reality is, there's no way to, again, another guarantee is that something else you can't guarantee is that your site, your platform, your service will never be hacked. It will. There's always going to be a vulnerability that someone's going to exploit.
And then there's what happened to Twitch, though, right? Which was like,
well, this is well, right, and I mean, there's some seriousness to it. There's some seriousness.
Sex tape for a social platform.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't necessarily go that far in describing it,
This
but
is something you never hoped would be out there. That is definitely like
well, okay, that analogy, that relationship, sure, I'll go with that. But Greg, why don't you since you so eloquently described it, why don't you talk about this?
So Twitch totally got blown like this week. Apparently, some anonymous hackers were very, very much of the belief that Twitch was doing pure evil to the ecosystem, and they decided that leveraging their skills, they were able to basically get everything. Like Twitch got pantsed, right? Like they like literally took their source code, all their new commits, all their old commits, all their revenue data, and just pumped it all out there for everybody to download. It was a 125 gigabyte torrent file that was put up on 4chan of all places. There were like about 20 different sites set up in the last few days that all have been taken down. I would note now that were literally publicizing all kinds of data and bits and facts that they found inside the source code, from unreleased products to like what actual creators were earning on the platform. I believe like the top line number here was one of the most popular or streamer. What was it there? Yeah, $9.6 million was earned during basically like a 2-year window. What was his name though? Oh yeah, you got a picture of it. Great.
Yeah. So somebody actually there was like apparently an Excel, some sort of Excel or spreadsheet that somebody had screenshotted. So there's and posted on Twitter, and this is the gross payouts of the top 100 highest paid Twitch streamers from August 2019 to this month actually, and
almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. Yeah.
So Critical Role, their payout was $9.6 million. $9.6 million.
Not bad.
So, but in comparison, like, so we all know Ninja. We've heard of Ninja.
Made at least $18 million off that person, right?
But let's look at like Ninja. I think is probably at least in
he's the more famous. I don't even see his name in this list.
Just wait. Hold on. Let me advance. As soon as if I can figure out how to advance these things.
Do you know how to scroll?
Yeah. No, not really. 1.37 million.
Wow.
He's so 46 out of 100.
Yeah, by the way, these are all the names that we think make the most, right? Like Pokemon. I know, all the ones you've heard about, even if you're not into Twitch, right? They're lower down than you would have thought.
And thankfully our information didn't get stolen, Greg, because I certainly don't see us on this list. So
I don't think they measure that many decimal places. So we're at risk of ever being called out.
Can we get the lowest the gross payment?
How many decimals it can render? So
is that where you get the E part? That E variable thing.
We're using some strict scientific notation to show our earnings in this spreadsheet.
I'm pretty sure the hacker set up a GoFundMe for our stuff. Like these guys.
But Ken, let me ask you, what is your takeaway? Are you surprised by these numbers? Do you think these numbers make sense, relatively speaking? Like, what do you think?
I'm not surprised, but I'm still surprised. It's like, when the reality, that these creators are getting paid bank. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is just with Twitch, but let's look at if YouTube had released their information, how much would that have been? Obviously, those two, I would imagine those numbers being high. Like those would be high. Yeah.
Twitch side, yeah.
Compared to like if Instagram or Facebook or Snap released their numbers, like those would probably be fairly low compared to what we're seeing here. And, kids, don't let your parents tell you that gaming doesn't pay, because it clearly does, right? If you're really good, it does. And this is just with them streaming.
Uncle Ken.
This is just streaming, right? This is not like esports or anything else. And this is just from the service. Not doesn't factor in any endorsements or anything else like that. Because let's see, what is it? Critical Role.
To be clear, this is just the subscription revenue, I believe, right, from the Twitch universe. So
Critical Role's like actual additional revenue could be a lot higher. He could be making like tens of million dollars, 11, 12, whatever that amount is, right? But I think you look at all the different ways that Twitch allows creators to monetize. It's not surprising. People, you're getting money from advertising. You're getting money from brand sponsorships. You're getting money from fans themselves, right? So there's a lot of opportunities there. Plus, and Twitch is constantly rolling out more. Now, obviously, this is, I don't know what they're going to do now. I mean, they're obviously Twitch has blamed this again on a server configuration error. Go figure. There's always some configuration error.
Look, I certainly empathize, because this is a horrible thing to happen.
It is. Right? I mean, look, this information getting out, this creator payout information getting out, is not the end of the world for Twitch. It's certainly embarrassing, because competitors are like, oh snap, like what the hell is this? I think the more damaging is the fact that the source code for Twitch is out there, and potential, how somebody else could use that to reverse that to actually build another Twitch and then maybe siphon away these people. But we all know, look, like Microsoft has created Mixer, and that failed. So could a Twitch competitor rise from this, emerge from the source code hack and actually become an actual rival to Twitch?
No.
I mean, it's all about the talent, right? A large part, right? It's talent's the audience. And I don't think that a hack is going to convince people to abandon their Twitch accounts and whether they're a creator or a fan. But I mean, for the purpose of this show, I mean, look, the top 5 are raking in between $5 to $9 million. 6 and below, you're raking in $3 million. So there's a bit of a difference. There's a big difference in payouts.
This is a classic long tail, right? So there's like a crap. As we know, I believe there's something like 9 million Twitch streamers, and out of that 9 million, there's only, I believe, like 300,000-400,000 in the affiliate and partner level who are actually able to monetize. So just goes to show you, like, there's still a huge disparity.
And fun little thing, speaking of revenue, because Critical Role needs more money now. This is some like a small as a side. Twitch is announcing a way to allow fans to promote their favorite streamer with paid ads, basically. So
there's a lot of funny comments on this article, by the way.
Well, so this is maybe because I'm not used to the Twitch lifestyle or the experience, but I'm curious, Greg, would you pay to advertise your streamer on Twitch? Like, why would, like, I wouldn't do a Facebook ad or a Google ad for this show. I wouldn't, because I'm a cheap bastard.
It's okay, because I have your credit card number and I did it for you. However, so here's what I would say, Ken. I think this is an important part in understanding sort of that role of communities and how people do become attached, though. I think there are people out there that, if you think about this idea of the 100 true fans, the 1,000 true fans, right? Like, conceptually, there are people who are real supporters. And, a lot of times people buy bits. I believe you use bits to do it. It wasn't channel points. But I think there are actually, maybe it was channel points. Actually, I think, like, for example, like, I think there are people who just really are huge fans of the show. They want to see those people, their creators that they like, be successful. And it's a pretty low friction thing, right? Like, you've already bought a bunch of bits as, part of your appreciation and consideration in the community. Not a bad thing, right? Like, I think there needs to be more ways for people to express their happiness and satisfaction with the content that creators are putting out. I personally find it a little bit annoying that you're buying ads, but I guess better than dollars, right? Like, I mean,
no. This is actually, in order to use this particular promoted ad, let's call it, it's actually using cash. This particular what Twitch is doing now.
Maybe it was an earlier version of the article.
It was.
Okay.
So this one last December, they experimented with Boost on a smaller level, making part of a community challenge, and you could earn it using Boost rewards. But now this is actually using cash, where you can promote a streamer at between for two different price. There's 2 different price points. You can make 1,000 recommendations for 99 cents, or 3,000 for 297. So the cost is very is very low, I think, for most people to enable to support their streamers. So I get that. I guess it's obviously low compared to buying a Google ad, and putting that out there to promote Critical Role, Ninja, you or whoever,
So,
right?
oh, by the way, here just a little further down, it says now promoting a streamer comes at two available prices:
Yep.
1,000 recommendations for 99¢,
Yep.
or 3,000 for $2.97. So it's not like price wise, not highway robbery. Um, look, you wouldn't believe this, but until you've done it, it doesn't make sense to you. But gifting a sub, why would you give somebody else a subscription, right? Like there's no necessarily like a logical reason, like a rational reason externally looking in that makes sense, except it's like a third of the revenue that Twitch makes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a sense of belonging. There is a sense of sharing. I think these are good constructs, and they probably are a good sign of a strong community that's been developed. So I like it. Does Twitch really need the money from this? Probably not. But hey, like it's interesting to see it's happening.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's talk about social video, audio. So our dear friend Fallon Fatemi is on with her next startup called Firebase or Fireside. I'm sorry, Fireside. Firebase is actually another platform that Google owns or owned. I don't know. Anyways, but she is working with Mark Cuban, which everyone knows, the Dallas Mavericks owner.
Mark was an investor in Node, Fallon's last company.
Yep. And also with Mike Eby. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Early Yammer employee. So here's what Fireside is. It's basically a platform that allows people to for creators to converse and communicate and interact with their audience and their fans, either through social audio or with a video component as well. So think of it like a Clubhouse, and also with a Zealous, right? Kind of spin to it. So it was previously in beta. It had about 500 creators on it. And now it just opened up to the public, and I believed it just announced a raise. I forget how much it was.
I know. So last I read, they
haven't disclosed it. They haven't disclosed it.
They aren't disclosing their funding.
Yeah.
So maybe trying to do their Series A though.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you can, as a creator, you can choose whether you're going to host a live audio or a video or a combination of both. Obviously, the audience can react in real time using emojis or raising hand. All shows are recorded and saved locally. Transcripts auto generated, so it's very much a Descript kind of model as well. What's kind of pretty impressive is that the post show capabilities will allow you to edit the content itself, so you can extract any random outbursts or negative conversations that you don't want to have in your final product. So it doesn't. So while you might have heard a big argument live, those that are hearing or watching the recorded version won't necessarily see that. And all your shows can be monetized as well through tickets, subscriptions, and Fireside is only going to take a 3% cut up until 30,000 in revenue. And then it's also looking to support NFTs as well. Yeah. So that's it's a nice little nice product, nice app, and wishing them well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think what's interesting here from what I've seen is they are focused in many ways, it seems like, in a Nielsen style environment, like one of the standout attributes or traits of the product that I've seen is sort of this idea of tracking reactions in time, and sort of getting a pulse of like what's happening in the room. And I do think that's an important part that's, I wouldn't say it's been missing per se. They have a slightly different take on it, but my guess would be, for example, like in a Twitter space when people are putting their emojis up, that there's a log of that, right? Mm-hmm. And that at some point you'll probably get access to that. Now, obviously, This is probably the closest thing that I can see to what a zealous competitor will look like also. So it's interesting to me, like for sure to see this product, and I'm happy Fallon's working on it. Um, I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. We have a couple of friends. I think our friend Scott Monty is on here and uses it. Um, it seems to be a little bit more oriented towards what they call professional creators. So they're kind of vetting and making sure that you're like building a brand and that you've established yourself and some of these other things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I'm not sure where, if all creators are like would be eligible or viable in this platform, but we'll see over time for
Yeah.
sure.
And we'll dive deeper into that later on
Yep.
in the show. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Snapchat. So Snap is, we were talking about money. Creators are going to be able to make more money now through this thing called Spotlight challenges. So Spotlight has been this program where Snap is paying creators to kind of create content for it. So now they kind of like entice people more to do that because, obviously in the past year or so, Snap's kind of had a bad juju with their creators because they're like, oh, we're not necessarily going to pay you $1 million a day anymore to create content, and they're like, okay, we're going to take our ball and go home. So now they're doing this thing called Spotlight challenges, which Snap says will promises a payout of at least $25,000 for the most engaging content that uses a specific AR lens, sound, or a topic for that day, right? So it's kind of like incentivizing. Like, I will pay you to use this particular filter, or I will pay you to use this, sound, or to post something around this topic, to highlight. So it's basically promoted content in a very arbitrary, in a very rough way. So right now they're saying they're paying at least 25,000, although not everyone's going to get that. So some payouts will range between 1,000 to 25,000. It's right now it's only being trialed, and it's supposed to launch in the US next month in November. A couple other things that they're also announcing that they announced in terms of monetization: Snap a gifting feature. So very similar to what we're talking about with Twitch, where you're being able
Yeah.
to pay people for or pay to create an ad for your favorite streamer. I can send you, Greg, a gift as a story reply in order to start a conversation. So it's basically I'm boosting
This
it.
also felt like Cameo, like kind of to me, right? Like because I thought
Yeah, but it's
was
more
it sort of like
bribery. It's a reverse bribe. It's one step of Cameo, one step further from Cameo, one additional step for Cameo, right?
yeah,
Because
like it was
I
to
have
get
to bribe you to
noticed
get.
by the
Yeah.
creator or to try to get a reply, basically,
Yeah,
right?
because it's like, Greg, I can always message you on Snap, and I'm like, hey, Greg, and like you're like, oh my god, I don't have time for this, but in order to like, let me like add something to the table, like hey, Greg, here's a whatever free coffee. You're like, oh, okay, let me reply to you now, right? So it's incentivized conversations, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and again, final 2 points. There's now a new dedicated creator hub, and they're going to now they're also are availing themselves of a sponsored by tag, so you can for business profiles can say, hey, creators can advertise in this marketplace, in the creator marketplace, and have it be get paid by a brand. So 100% of those proceeds will go directly to the creators. So it's just enticing creators to use more of Snapchat as opposed to TikTok,
Yeah, this is
Twitch,
the
everything.
unfortunate precedent that you set if you start paying for everything, which is that then everybody wants you to pay for everything.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about
Uh,
blogging for a bit.
yeah,
You know,
this was interesting news for sure as well.
yeah. I mean, so I haven't used Mirror. Um, I haven't been actually blogging in a bit, but so Mirror, for those that are not, so headline here is Ethereum-based blogging platform Mirror opens up to everyone, and so it's built obviously on the blockchain, Ethereum, and so what that means, it's very much like a Medium, but crypto based. And it's using what was it, the Airweave storage protocol. But you need to authenticate using your Ethereum wallet in order to post and to sign in to Mirror. But I think afterwards, everything after that is going to be like almost like you're using Medium. So that's available to everyone now. They didn't really provide that much details in terms of usage thus far, at least according to this Decrypt article. But what was notable is that there are 5 additional features that are going to be coming soon to the platform. Obviously, the ability to subscribe. So very much like what you can do with Ghost and what you can do with, very much like with a Substack or anything like that. Although those platforms are not necessarily crypto based. Blog feeds to be able to discover easier, having a richer editing platform, and which I think is probably the biggest thing is support for Ethereum name services. So you're going to be able to have your customized Ethereum domain name attached to it.
So I think the interesting thing here, or one of the big changes, why this is sort of a big deal, relatively speaking, is that previously to get into Mirror was a very exclusive kind of environment. They used to have these writing challenges. You had to sort of like make your way in. Now it seems like anyone can basically sign up. I just signed up like literally while we were here just to see what happens. I think this is super compelling because like I am curious about how this paid sort of for the model or sort of like shared equity kind of model in writing is gonna surface. I mean, like this has the potential to be somewhat disruptive, like to things like Substack, obviously to like things like WordPress and other things like that as well, right?
Yeah.
So I as someone who has previously in life enjoyed writing, like I think this is super interesting to me to be able to try to participate in this sort of ecosystem now, and see how it goes.
I kind of see Mirror kind of being a fledgling attempt at building a community, a blockchain community, right? And sure, it doesn't seem like I guess when most people equate like a community, it's like a social network kind of thing. It's like, oh, you can have a community like with whether it's Mighty or on Facebook or anything like that. But this is like people who may want to, instead of just being able to converse using audio or video, and obviously it's text based, right? And so you have that decentralized model where kind of everyone is all about the blockchain, all about crypto, and they can write about it. And very similar to what you see with Quora and Medium, where it's more higher. What their intent is to be more higher level, more insightful kind of conversation, as opposed to, oh my god, like what did I eat today? Da da da. It's more pie in the sky. This is the stuff that's happening in this in crypto with NFTs and all this other stuff. Maybe this is kind of like that attempt at bringing people together. I'd imagine. I'm not 100% sure though. That's me just kind of like pie in the sky type of view.
Yeah, I think relatively speaking, like going back to this just broader notion that you can participate, that you can support creators creating the kind of content that you want, and at the same time, I think another aspect of this is participate in the ownership of those things that are created. I think that to me feels like the most interesting thing that Mirror is sort of putting together. So I think it's interesting. I think there will be a lot of interesting discussions that come out of this, and we should try it. Like it seems like something just to experiment with.
Cool. All right. Our last story before we go into a more philosophical discussion is YouTube. So this is I was looking at this earlier, and I'm like, I seem to recall that we actually covered this type of statistic a few weeks ago on our show, right, on Created Briefs. So YouTube has this study that came out that's saying that the creator economy is supporting the equivalent of almost 400,000 full-time U.S. jobs. And I remember something like maybe their chief business officer had said this in an interview a while back. It might have been in a Variety article that we covered, where like, oh, this is not surprising. So I'm like, why did this sounded very redundant, but I'm not entirely sure. Although there's other stats in here where YouTube's study is saying that same economy it contributed to almost $21 billion to the nation's GDP last year. Like that seems like a lot. And I mean, and first of all, $21 billion is not a paltry sum. But when you look into context, the GDP last year was 21 trillion, right? So that's a very creator economy. It supports a very small amount. But I mean, that's like,
but it's one company doing this, right? So
very true. Yeah. But also, like, think of it this way: like 400 creator economy on YouTube support is basically equivalent with almost $400,000. 400,000 full-time U.S. jobs. How many full-time U.S. jobs are there? There are 124 million full-time jobs in the U.S. as of last year, right? So look, this is nothing to say like, oh, YouTube's full of crap, or this is a great thing or bad thing. I like just let's just put these numbers in comparison. This is what it is. It's a nice little benchmark for YouTube.
yeah, but remember, we're comparing it like to the entirety of like the economy, right?
Yeah.
Like a better way to think about it is like compared to a different profession, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many plumbers are there, right? Or how many, something like that, right? Obviously, I think it's gonna always pale in comparison next to the entire U.S. economy, right? But
Yeah. But I'm
but
surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't do. I'm wondering if
by the way, I
YouTube
just
did a study.
There are 480,600 plumbers in the United States.
Well, dang, let's pivot the show. Let's talk the plumber economy, on next Wednesday. But I wonder, like, YouTube's been at this game for quite some time. So I wonder if they did a study like this, 5 years ago, right? Before we started seeing more of this creator economy type of proliferation, right? I mean, back when there was like everyone's talking about the YouTube stars.
They may not have had the
Yeah.
need or interest in
But I'm kind of curious to see like how that would have weighed, like, looking at this, like, okay, this is great. How did this compare to before? Is there an interesting trend that YouTube's seeing? Is like, obviously it's on the uptick. I have no false belief that that number has gone up, right? But it's like, how significant has that gone up, right? Because I think that would have been a great tell of YouTube's potential. But let's look at YouTube, for example. 2 billion monthly active users. There are 38,000 US channels with more than 100,000 subscribers. Sadly, we're not there yet, but be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And at more than 5,000 channels had at least 1 million subscribers at the end of last year.
What was that again? Say it again.
More than 5,000 channels on YouTube had at least 1 million subscribers at the end of last year. So,
pretty interesting. I guess, like, look, as we all know, there's only 2 million full timers, right? Like doing sort of content creation or creators right now. So if YouTube has 400,000 out of the 2 million, it's pretty sizable, right?
No, you're kind of equating, you're changing that, because 400,000 is the equivalent of full-time jobs, not creators. Although, would
I'm just saying, I don't know. That's true. I'm just saying, like, they're approaching a relatively high statistical representation in the total full-time creators, I would imagine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that wraps up our news. So why don't we go into talk more deep dive?
Well, we only have about 11 minutes. By the way, so I do have news this week. Which is we just launched our newest product at Zealous. It's actually the third piece of the pie in the ecosystem we've been creating. It's called Zealous Meat. We would love for you to go check it out and give us your feedback. Obviously, we're hoping to work with more and more creators if we can do that. But basically, if you've been on the show, you've probably seen that we do use Zealous like more than once in the course of the week to produce our show. And the goal of Meet is ultimately to add finally sort of the monetization layer so that creators can actually start to monetize that activity. So yeah, you can find out more. Check out our tweets. We had a banner up, but we are live over on Product Hunt. We went live just today, and we'd love your support, feedback, comments, questions, whatever it may be. So by all means, feel free to head over there. Yeah, I'll just give you a little pic of it here. But this is what Meet looks like. And yeah, so Ken, what did we want to talk about?
So, I mean, you look at with Fireside and obviously with Zealous Meat, there's like this wild west. I mean, we all know there's a wild west for the creator economy, right? And I think what's interesting about the launch of Fireside and also with Zealous Meat is there's need for creators. And, these are tailor made specifically for creators, and I think that's where creators can't find what they need and with MacGyver technology, right? So I think you see people saying, okay, let's connect with one another and have like these type of interactions. Okay, we're going to use Zoom, or we're going to use whatever Blue Jeans or whatever similar services. These are traditional WebEx, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are very one to many type of interactions. But then how do you communicate? And it's very much harkens back to the early days of Clubhouse, where Greg, you've done a lot of shows on Clubhouse, and you remember how difficult it is, where you're saying, hey, if you have any questions for people in the audience, or you join on stage or whatever, DM me. So you had to go to a different service. So you had to go to Twitter, you had to go onto Instagram, and it's like there was a lot of friction. Now you're like, okay, with the advent, with the introduction of Zealous Meat and others, you have that, you make it easier for everyone to say, all right, here's a single platform. Yes, it's distributed across all the major platforms that you need it to be, where your audience is, but you make it easier for them to do that. No, and I mean, yes, the only inconvenience is that, I have to leave Facebook to go to here, right? It's not native, but whatever. I mean, so you can go to these type of platforms and have your entire experience there, where you can interact with people, you can have side conversations, you can feel more intimate and more engaged, right? And have that personal connection. Because I think that the most creators, unless you're like a Critical Role with like raking in $9 million in 2 years, right, from just by Twitch, you're not going to be able to say, oh, let me go have a meet and greet at like downtown San Francisco and Boulder, or in Seattle or New York, because that costs a heck of a lot of money, right? And you're not going to go out and rent an entire stadium and whatnot, because whether it's for financial reasons or for pandemic or health reasons or whatever, it's just not feasible. So this is kind of that bridge, that compromise. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of these type of things to kind of help bridge the gap between in this especially in this virtual time, right? I think, but Greg, what has been some of the challenges that you see creators facing in this stuff, right? I mean,
so yeah, it's a good. So I think philosophically, Ken, like my point of view is that if we look at sort of like broad movements of things, the interactive versions of things win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're more enjoyable, they're participatory, they tend to form stronger ties. Right? Like you could take watching a live stream versus watching a live stream where you can chat with people. That's a more interactive version than sort of the pure one directional version, right? Now, I think like what we see happening, right, is like we're seeing innovation in lots of ways here, right? Like Arnold's company, Abhinav's company, Zealous, Fireside, all these apps, Clubhouse, right, Twitter Spaces. What are they doing? They're really changing the game on interactivity ultimately, mm-hmm. right? They're bringing new ways for us to interact. And previously, we went through like a very long period where the state of the art for interaction was what? It was like likes, comments, right? And that was about it. And maybe some chat stuff, right? But I do think that, especially to the end, that you want to move from an audience-based universe to a community-based universe, that for that transition to happen, You have to create more intimacy. You have to strengthen the ties between you and your audience, now community, and enable and foster relationships between the community themselves, the members themselves. And so more interactivity, I would argue, is likely the recipe for success, at least for the short term, until we abuse the crap out of it. And then everyone has too much of it. And then they're like, I don't want to have to do anything. I just want to listen again. Right.
Yeah. But Greg, I mean, is it, are these companies just basically repurposing the same playbook? I mean, the fact that like, okay, audio, video, like social network, social media, like, okay, this is obviously, but built, tailored specifically for creators. Like, oh, like that seems pretty obvious. Like what is, I mean, that's from more like let's take it from like the layperson's view, right? I mean, obviously, like,
yeah. So I guess there's 2 points there, Ken. One, there are only so many modalities through which we can communicate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so the technology is the technology, right? Like, we're starting to see like AR, VR, metaverse stuff, right? Like sort of emerging now as a new modality that we can use to engage, but it's relying on the things that humans have as innate senses, right? Like vision and audio and stuff like that, right? So as humans, like we're kind of locked in, like these are going to kind of be the ways that we manifest, sort of more interactions and engagement. I think the interesting challenge from a creator point of view, and this is, by the way, why a thing brands have never been able to solve for, is that they don't know how to engage with millions of people for real, right? Like, and this is a hard thing, right? Like sociologically, anthropologically, it's very difficult for humans to scale like past like Dunbar like numbers, right? Like, so this becomes a really interesting question in how do you actually bootstrap a community that is big and massive, but also meaningful, right? And I don't know. I think you have to do different things with tooling that they may seem creator centric. I don't think they're creator centric. I think they're community centric, and they have applicability. Applicability, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
To creators and corporations at the same time, right? So I don't view this as like a creator centric stack per se. I view it as a community stack, and I think to that end, all of these tools, right? Like creating a better sense of belonging, fostering stronger ties amongst people, helping to better surface thoughts and ideas and leaders, et cetera. All of those things are really, really relevant. And creators are likely going to be the canaries in the coal mine here, like to test these things and try to do it. They've been approximating it as best they can, right? For way longer than anyone else has, right? Like brands all have historically been fairly arm's length, right, from their customer, right? Like other than transactional support, you don't talk to a brand, right? Like, so I do think we are trying to figure out how to bridge into a world that has more closeness, that has more community, and has more interactivity. And I've said this before, what technology tends to do is it goes through these push and pulls where the efficiencies we offer often leave us longing for sort of like the way the world was, right? And so I feel like this wave of interactivity is really just a reaction to sort of the distance that's been created by like existing social tools.
No, you make a great point. And I think you look at, you're talking about with brands and businesses, like they're going on to doing like, oh, let me go on and do a Facebook Live, or let me talk to my customers, or do something like fun little promotion, right? Or they go onto YouTube, and it feels very rough, right? Because it's like they're like, okay, we're just gonna go on camera and push our message out there to the world, and like we don't care about the bells. We just want to get our message out there. Just throw it out there. People will listen, right? And you look at them on whether it's a Facebook video, you Facebook Live, or you do with a YouTube. Or with LinkedIn, it feels rough, right? Because it's like, here you go, forcing you to do that. But I think with the advent of with the introduction of Fireside, with Zealous and all these other platforms that are kind of merging, there's a lot of opportunity right there in this space to kind of make it more meaningful, like we were talking about earlier, intimate, more meaningful, because they are offering much more value than all these other platforms can do. Because with Facebook and YouTube, they're all about, hey, we're just doing YouTube. We're YouTube for all, video for all, right? We can't be like, okay, let's do YouTube for targeted YouTube features for these people and this, because it's like, okay, we don't see any money in that. But as you're talking about with Fireside, they're doing more of the professional side of things, or the business side. Nothing wrong with it. They're like the LinkedIn. LinkedIn has really done a great job separating itself from Facebook as a social network of sort. Great opportunity for Fireside and for those that are professional or white collar or whatever. And if they go into the consumer, great. For Zealous, you're more on the consumer side, and also for the creators and more individual fans. That's great too, right? There's plenty of opportunity for that. But both of you all, specifically talking with Fireside and Zealous, you offer a slew of additional tools that helps heighten that experience, right? On Fireside, they offer the script and Clubhouse type of features, right? You can transcript and editing and all this other stuff, right? And social audio. Zealous, you offer a great intimate conversation, but you offer that tiered approach, right? So you can say, okay, how do I reward my most ardent fans, customers, supporters, right? And also sync in with all the major social networks, and you have that, you allow that engaging conversation, and you can allow that overlays and all this, bells and whistles that you can editing features, right? So I think there's a great separation, as opposed to what you would get with like a Blue Jeans or a Zoom or anything, because Zoom doesn't offer any of this, right? Because it's like, how do I get people, like, for example, Arnold, if Arnold wants to join us on Zoom, that's a pain in the butt, right? But you also don't capture their information. You don't get their information, like their whatever information you want.
Different context, right? Like, presumably you already know who you're inviting into a Zoom, right?
Yeah.
It's a little harder in a dynamic environment for sure. So I see there is it's a big topic, and we'll obviously be, I'm sure, revisiting this many times over as we move forward. But I do think, like, community and ultimately relationship building and the role of interactivity is just a critical part of how we should think about the future. And by the way, and participation, right? These are all common threads that are all highly commingled, I would argue. But we are at time already, believe it or not. And before we do go, we should do a little housekeeping here. Just in case you don't know, because I know we don't know how to say his name, but Joe will be here very soon.
Joe Hirkin. I'm going to say Joe Hirkin.
Joe Hirkin from Issue will be here next Wednesday with us. Wednesday, right?
Yeah, this Wednesday.
But we do have a lot of great guests. By the way, wait, do I have the slide? Yeah. In case you didn't know, we have a third show now. So on Tuesdays, we are now doing Created Hours, which is our office hours for anyone in the creator economy. So you could be a creator, you could be a founder, you could be an investor wanting to learn more, but feel free to come on by. We had a great session this week already for our first one, and we will see you there. We're usually there for at least an hour, trying to help brainstorm and solve problems wherever we can. Obviously, on Wednesdays, we have Created Economy, our interview series, and then Created Briefs, this show, of course. Created Briefs. I forgot to edit this slide, apparently.
We're going back in time.
Going back in time. But Amber Case will be here with us after that. Peter Shankman coming up over there on the 27th. And then November 3rd, we have John Allen from Lava Social Audio will also be joining us. So if you'd like to be a guest of the show, by all means, head over to createdeconomy.com/guest list. And you can actually put your name into a form so that we can know that we should have you on the show. By the way, did you know that if you use and have AMA coin, you can accelerate that process? So feel free to scan that QR code, head over to our link, and grab some AMA. It is a nice way to show your support for the community and to be part of the team here. And that is it, I believe, for this week, Ken. I would love and appreciate all of your help and visibility and thoughts over on Product Hunt, just to help us with getting Zealous out the door and to a bigger audience today. But check our Twitter. We'll have some stuff out later today as well. Anything else, Ken, before we head on out?
I don't think so. Everyone, have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we will see you on Wednesday.
All righty. Bye, everybody.